What if I told you that the dinosaurs didn't just vanish, they were reset? That deep beneath the Earth's surface, something ancient, something still alive, might be waiting? 66 million years ago, a rock the size of a mountain slammed into the planet with the force of 10 billion atomic bombs. Oceans boiled, skies turned black, and over 75% of life was erased. But what if that wasn't the end, just a pause? Today, scientists are digging up more than fossils. They're finding DNA, cells, even biological activity in remains thought to be long dead. Now imagine, in the distant future, humanity plays God and brings them back, not in a zoo, not in a lab, but to survive. What could possibly go wrong? For decades, the extinction of the dinosaurs was considered a closed case, a cosmic accident caused by an asteroid strike that reshaped the planet. But science never stops digging, and what it's uncovering now may rewrite everything we thought we knew. Today, in the age of genetic engineering and synthetic biology, we are no longer just observers of nature, we are becoming its authors. Deep within permafrost and amber, preserved in ways no one thought possible, fragments of prehistoric life are being recovered, some with intact strands of DNA. With tools like CRISPR and rapidly evolving artificial intelligence, the impossible starts to feel inevitable. We've already cloned mammals. We've already resurrected cells from species gone extinct for thousands of years. So the question is no longer, can we bring dinosaurs back? It's should we? Our world today stands on the edge of breakthroughs that once belonged to science fiction. But as our power grows, so does our blindness. The climate is shifting, ecosystems are collapsing, and the desire to fix the planet may lead us to one irreversible mistake, bringing back the past to save the future. But what if that past refuses to be tamed? What if dinosaurs, reborn into a world they were never meant to see, become more than a curiosity, more than a spectacle? What if they become a threat, a mirror of our own arrogance, and a warning that some chapters in Earth's history were closed for a reason? It all began with a single-tooth, serrated, fossilized, buried under 60 feet of sediment in the Patagonian desert. At first glance, just another relic. But under the microscope, researchers noticed something strange. Deep in the pulp cavity, remnants of soft tissue. And within it, decayed, fragmented strands of what appeared to be DNA. Not enough to clone a dinosaur. Not yet, but enough to spark a movement. Around the world, paleogenetic labs were suddenly racing to do the unthinkable: extract, sequence, and rebuild ancient genomes. What started as scientific curiosity quickly turned into ambition. Funding surged. Private corporations stepped in. Nations began secret programs. The idea of resurrecting extinct life, once a fantasy, was now a geopolitical race. But the further they went, the darker it became. DNA from multiple species was being spliced, reconstructed, manipulated to fill the gaps. No one was building true dinosaurs. They were building approximations, hybrids, creatures that had never existed before, stronger, more adaptable, biologically engineered for survival in a world not their own. At first, it was about science. Then it became about power, then control. But nature doesn't forget, and it certainly doesn't forgive. The ancient blueprint of predation, of dominance, of hunger, those instincts were never truly gone, just dormant. And with every breakthrough, with every embryo pulsing in artificial wombs, we weren't just reviving the past, we were inviting it back in. Without understanding the cost, without knowing what these creatures might become or what they might do once the cage opens. In 2023, scientists in Japan managed to reactivate 28,000-year-old cells from a woolly mammoth. Not just preserved, but responding. In Harvard, teams used synthetic biology to splice mammoth genes into Asian elephants, early steps toward de-extinction. But that was just the beginning. What few people know is that parallel experiments were quietly being conducted with much older material. In remote Siberian labs, and deep within militarized biotech zones in China and South America, research crossed a threshold. Using CRISPR-based gene editing, teams weren't just reviving, they were rewriting. DNA from ancient reptiles, birds, amphibians combined with modern organisms to create viable embryos. One classified project, codenamed Chimera Protocol, reportedly succeeded in creating a cold-blooded predator capable of surviving in extreme temperatures and regenerating damaged tissue. A creature not seen on Earth for 65 million years, and not identical to any species we've ever known. And the scariest part? The technology is already here. Gene printers the size of coffee machines. AI models predicting viable DNA combinations with 90% accuracy. Artificial wombs capable of sustaining non-human life forms without a mother. We're not talking about a far-off future. We're talking about this decade. Imagine one of these engineered organisms escaping containment, not in a lab, but in a remote jungle, or worse, near a city. Evolution took 300 million years to build the dinosaur. We've taken barely 30 to bring it back. Faster, smarter, deadlier. And once it's out, we won't be the apex predator anymore. Here's the truth no one talks about. We may not even need full dinosaur DNA to bring them back. That's the twist. Because birds, the creatures we see every day, are living dinosaurs. Their genomes still carry the ancient code. And with current gene editing, scientists don't need to clone a T-Rex. They can build one, piece by piece. In 2016, a team in Chile created a chicken embryo with a dinosaur-like snout instead of a beak. Another group engineered a tail that resembled that of ancient reptiles. These weren't accidents. They were deliberate, targeted changes made by switching genes on and off. Like flipping biological light switches. The science behind it? Evolution doesn't delete old code, it buries it. And now, we can dig it back up. This concept, called reverse evolution, isn't fringe anymore. It's gaining traction. But here's the terrifying part. The more we experiment, the less we understand what we're truly unlocking. Are we reviving extinct creatures? Or creating something entirely new, with instincts we can't predict and biology we can't control? And what happens when the first successful subject doesn't fit inside a cage? When it's not a curiosity for scientists, but a living, breathing entity with its own will to survive. Some researchers warn that even minor deviations in genetic programming could lead to accelerated aggression, neurological anomalies, or even unexpected intelligence. We're playing with deep time, resurrecting instincts shaped by millions of years of survival and dominance. So the real question isn't how we do it. It's why we ever thought we should. Today, we stand on the brink of something unprecedented. In labs from Boston to Beijing, researchers are mapping extinct genomes with shocking precision. At the Vertebrate Genomes Project, entire blueprints of prehistoric creatures are being reconstructed, not guessed, not approximated, sequenced. AI-driven platforms can now predict missing genetic code based on evolutionary relatives, meaning even damaged DNA can be repaired digitally. And when it comes to bringing those genes to life, tools like CRISPR-Cas9 are changing everything. This gene editing technology acts like molecular scissors, allowing scientists to cut, paste, and modify DNA with microscopic accuracy. Add to that the rise of artificial wombs, bioreactors that can simulate conditions of real gestation, and the pieces begin to fall into place. No need for surrogate mothers. No need for nature's permission. Just science and time. In South Korea, cloned wolves already roam protected enclosures. In Australia, researchers are working to de-extinct the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger, within the next 5 years. And in the US, the passenger pigeon is being reconstructed from museum samples. This isn't science fiction. It's our current reality. But here's where it gets darker, because the more we succeed, the more we push the boundary. What happens when a breakthrough isn't made by cautious scientists, but by private biotech firms chasing profit, or by defense contractors seeking new biological weapons? We are unlocking tools once reserved for gods, and using them with all the recklessness of children. And the door is already open. Not everyone agrees on what's really happening behind the scenes. Some scientists argue that bringing back extinct species is the ultimate ecological redemption, a way to repair what humans destroyed. They call it rewilding the earth. They imagine genetically restored ecosystems where mammoths roam the Arctic tundra and raptors keep overpopulated species in check. But others see a darker pattern. They warn that what's marketed as restoration is really domination. That de-extinction isn't about balance, it's about control. And somewhere along the line between research and recklessness has already been crossed. In one leaked report, A biotech firm allegedly lost containment of a synthetic reptilian hybrid in a high-security test zone in Central Africa. Official statements called it equipment malfunction, but satellite imagery showed something else: burned-out tree lines, missing personnel, and a silence that's never been explained. Some believe we're not just awakening extinct species, but opening a door to unpredictable evolution. Creatures born from spliced DNA and artificial environments may not obey natural laws. They may not stop growing, or breeding, or hunting. One radical theory suggests that these hybrids could develop unexpected cognitive abilities, not intelligence in the human sense, but something more primal, collective, adaptive, like a hive mind. Is this alarmism or foresight? Because if we're wrong even once, the consequences won't be theoretical. They'll be alive, breathing, moving, and hungry. We wanted to rewrite history. But what if history rewrites us? At first, it was isolated. A facility gone dark. Communications severed. Then an entire region placed under satellite lockdown. Governments denied everything. But whispers began to leak, of patrol units that never returned, of motion sensors tripped by something too fast, too large, too coordinated. Within months, the truth was impossible to contain. Something had escaped, and it wasn't alone. These weren't monsters from a movie. They were engineered life forms, adapted to modern ecosystems, feeding on chaos, thriving where humans faltered. Entire villages disappeared in the Amazon. Power grids in Southeast Asia went down, not from hackers, but from nests built inside industrial infrastructure. The hybrids weren't just surviving. They were spreading and adapting. Their physiology, resistant to toxins, immune to disease, able to metabolize almost anything organic, made them nearly impossible to stop. Humanity's weapons worked, at first. But like viruses, these creatures learned, changed, reorganized. Then came the real fear: coordinated behavior. Not just packs, but patterns, migration routes, target prioritization. A logic we didn't program, emerging on its own. And just like that, humanity was no longer at the top of the food chain. Cities became quarantine zones. Scientists became fugitives. The very minds that unlocked the past were now hunted by it. And as nations collapsed under the weight of their own creation, the realization sank in: this wasn't evolution. It was replacement, not extinction, but succession. We hadn't revived the ancient world. We had triggered the birth of a new one that never needed us to begin with. In the end, the question was never about whether we could, but whether we should. Humanity had reached beyond the veil of time, cracked open the tomb of extinction, and expected obedience from what crawled out. But nature doesn't bargain. It balances. And we tipped the scale. Now, standing on the edge of collapse, the world faces a choice. Not just of survival, but of identity. Do we continue chasing control, editing life, bending evolution, rewriting the very rules of existence? Or do we finally accept that some forces should remain untouched? That not everything lost is meant to return? Across what's left of the global network, the debate burns. Some argue we must fight, reclaim dominance, reassert the human legacy. Others believe we must adapt, evolve into coexistence, or retreat entirely. A handful choose silence. There is no hero in this story, no last-minute salvation, just a species staring into the mirror of its own ambition and seeing something unfamiliar looking back. We wanted to become creators, but creation doesn't always follow the script. And when the creatures we shaped began shaping the world in return, we lost the right to call ourselves masters. The truth is brutal. We opened the gate, and now we must live in the world that came through it. Maybe the final test of intelligence isn't how much we can build, but when we know it's time to stop. Or else, like the ones before us, we too will become a fossil in someone else's future. Remember how we started this story? With a question. What if dinosaurs came back? But now, maybe the real question is, what if they never truly left? Maybe they were just waiting, not beneath the ground, but inside our ambition. Inside the code we tampered with. Inside every decision we made without asking if we should. And now that you've seen the full picture, let me ask you something, honestly. Do you think we'd survive them? Would you want to live in a world where humans are no longer the architects of life, but the prey of their own creations? I don't tell you this story to scare you, not only. I tell it because it's real. Because the science is real. The technology is real. The desire to control nature, disturbingly real. And whether this future arrives in 5 years or 50, someone will take that final step. Maybe they already have. So the next time you hear about a discovery in an underground lab, a gene editing breakthrough, or a strange sighting in a remote jungle, maybe don't scroll past it. Because history has a habit of repeating itself, especially the parts we tried to bury. And just like before, the sky may darken, the ground may shake, and once again, the world will belong to something ancient, something we thought was gone. But tell me, if you had the chance to stand face to face with a real dinosaur, not in a movie, not in a cage, would you take it? Or would you run? Let me know in the comments, because that future may come faster than you think.